to talk to you today, and we're going to explore your new business called Homeostasis, which is a terrific online wellness business. And I'd like to ask you a bit of a story of how you got to today with the business running, and what's your kind of personal journey to have got here?
Well, I had a personal journey, and I describe it as going from a superhero to super zero. And now I'm working my way back again from super zero to superhero again. Personally, myself, I use hemp oils, meditation, and cold therapy. But I won't go into that today. To understand where I am today, it would help if we went back a little bit of time, back to 1984. I joined the LDS Church, the Latter-day Saint Church. Went on a mission to Australia, and when I got there, I noticed that the first thing that was stressing me out was the traffic there. It was unbelievable, and this is back in 1984. Anyway, cut a long story short, we were driving along one day, and we got T-boned by another car, and it was a pretty bad accident. Impact was about 140 Ks, and I probably should have died, but I didn't. And I was able to live through that, but somehow I got a complication with back injuries, and I also got post-traumatic stress disorder. And the interesting thing is that they were both related, that each one affected the other. But when I went to the doctor, because they compartmentalize your body, there was no one person overseeing the anyways. The medical profession didn't do me that well. And so after, say, 20 years of being on various drugs for mental illness, for pain, anxiety, depression, insomnia, the whole bit, I gave up on the whole medical profession because I just believed that they couldn't help me, or they either wouldn't or they couldn't, or they were prevented from helping me, or something. Either way, I just felt that it was my responsibility to do something about it myself. So I came back from my mission, and I didn't understand what post-traumatic stress disorder was until I had had it a few years. But basically, the underlying symptom is that your adrenaline and cortisol is turned on full, and you can't turn them off. And obviously, that's a hormonal imbalance. So if somebody was to look at my hormonal profile, they'd see that it was totally skewed. So I had to live like this for a number of years. And while I was taking medication, I became really, really fat, actually. It was 200 kgs, and it was all fat and inflammation. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. But once I decided to take a different approach to mainstream medicine, and I looked at naturopathic modalities, I felt inspired to go down that line. And so here I am a number of years later, 20 odd years later, and I've done really well out of it, as far as restoring my former self back again. And I've wanted to see if I could take that to other people, because people don't have to suffer as much as what they do, and that there are ways to actually bring down the inflammation and restore your metabolism and get back on the right track again. So I went to Argentina about 4 or 5 years ago, and while I was there, I met a person. Her name's Guillermina Minicucci, and which is kind of Italian. and this is in Argentina. And I was really interested in her because she had an Ayurvedic background, and Ayurveda is the ethnic medicine of India, mostly Hindu. And just like the ethnic medicine of China is traditional Chinese medicine, and the ethnic medicine from New Zealand is called Rongoa, Rongoa. And I was really interested in these types of healing modalities. And so I followed that. And here I am today, 5 years later. I've got a website based on Ayurvedic principles. They would probably be based on Rongoa principles, but we don't have access to information on Rongoa like we do with Ayurveda. Ayurveda's history goes back to the beginning of time.
It's fantastic. So I would say to all viewers, look at Marco. He looks in pretty good shape to me. So
not bad for 60 if you think about the shit I've been through.
Yeah. So let's move on to being specific about the formulations that you are making available through Homeostasis online. So perhaps we might start with perhaps the immune one, which I believe is called Shield. So you've got four things. One is for sleeplessness, one for anxiety, one for strengthening the immune system, and one for strengthening the libido, I believe.
Yep, so it goes something like that. So first up, we got Shield. So Shield is based on the green fairy hemp oil that we've been selling successfully through Kakariki Fine Foods and homeostasis.co.nz. And basically, we decided that what we would do is that we'd get a little bit more specific by inserting an Ayurvedic herb, or 3 Ayurvedic herbs in this case, into the mix, and coming up with something that's more specific for a particular need. So say we got Shield here. Shield is based on green fairy hemp oil, and then we add three very effective and traditional herbs called Triphala, which is an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory and an antibacterial. We also add turmeric, which is an antidepressant and a respiratory aid, and then an adaptogen called Tulsi, which is a respiratory aid. And those together with the hemp oil, they work really well because the hemp oil forms a base that helps with communications. So it, previously, if you've never taken hemp oil before, and then you suddenly start taking it, what you'll find is that your physiologies will work better, that the endocannabinoid system will be enhanced. And it's a little bit like putting in new network cables and new routers and switches and hubs. And so that one's called Shield, and that's for immune support.
And so so tell me about the libido enhancement one, which I think a lot of us would be interested in. That you've got a female one and a male one, both based again on finding the right herbs via the Ayurvedic tradition.
Yeah, well, in this case, we have a singular herb with the hemp oil. So green fairy hemp oil as the base, and then we add to the male libido and sports performance oil, we add ashwagandha to complete the product. And ashwagandha, if you've not heard of it before, is also an adaptogen herb. And what it does is it helps young men to get more energy, and it helps old men to enhance what they've lost and get energy. And so the type of person that would take it would be somebody that's, say, 40 upwards, and they can see a decline in their ability to concentrate, their ability to focus, their ability to get an erection, the ability to recover faster after exercise. And we actually have a lot of gym people that take ashwagandha for extra aerobic capacity and extra strength, physical strength.
So that's the female one and the male one, or are they different?
Sorry, that was the male one. So the female one, we've got an equivalent. It's called Shatavari. And anybody that knows or has heard of Shatavari will realize that that's actually the go-to herb for women's issues. So issues like PMS, mood swings, menopause.
All the other things, yeah, right.
Yeah, I get. Okay, all of those type of issues that have been, organized under one label as women's issues, all of those have been dealt to from the beginning of time by the herb Shatavari. So we take that herb Shatavari and we put that into green fairy hemp oil. And, as with the other oils, the entourage effect from the hemp oil, it gives leverage to the Shatavari and makes the Shatavari really reliable.
That's terrific. Now, another thing that you're addressing, which a lot of people have problem with, which is getting to sleep, sleeplessness. What can you offer there?
Okay, well, it turns out that I'm actually holding the Guinness Book of Records world record for going without sleep. And ever since my accident back in 1984, I've never had a good night's sleep up until of recent times. And it wasn't until I actually got plant support from the Green Fairy product that I started to get somewhere. And I felt like that, there's communications in my body that suddenly started working again. So the physiology that turns on and tells you to panic in a fight or flight situation, I can get that to get a message back to my brain to say, hey, we got enough anxiety, we got enough cortisol, we got enough adrenaline, thanks a lot, you can turn that off now. And so I've taken the herbs that lend themselves to relaxation and deep sleep and incorporated those into a couple of products. So the first one of those is Sleepy Time. Now, Sleepy Time was the first one of these that I actually started using. And I mean, if you haven't slept for a number of years, you're going to be pretty worn down. And I was pretty worn down. And I noticed that it would relax me during the day. And then in the evening, when it was time to feel sleepy, it would help me to feel sleepy. I had to do a number of other things, but, like get off the computer, deal with my screen addiction, don't eat too late, and a number of other things. But there you go. So there's 3 herbs that we put in that. One of them is called Sapaganda, and it's a really strong anti-inflammatory. We got Brahmi, which is a memory enhancer, and also an aphrodisiac. And we got Shank Pushpi, which is anti-stress, anti-restlessness, and anti-depression. And when we combine those 3 together and put that into the Green Fairy hemp oil, we have ourselves Sleepy Time. And Sleepy Time is a really popular seller. And then we have the daytime product, which is called Relax. And so Relax is very similar to Sleepy Time, except that Relax helps you to focus on being relaxed during the day. Now, I would say that these oils would be pretty effective on people, but the person has to also realize that they can't put themselves in a stressful situation and expect the oil to, be a clear all or a fix all of everything. So, you have to observe, for diet and keeping yourself out of stressful situations, or indeed enhancing your ability to handle stress. So relaxation has got Brahmi in it also. and Brahmi is a memory enhancer and aphrodisiac. And then we got Jatamansi. Jatamansi is a very, very cooling anti-stress herb. And we got Vaka, which is for clarity of thought. Now, I don't know if you're ever in a situation where you got to hurry up and get a report out there, and you just can't relax enough to, to start using your frontal cortex to come up with some new ideas. And Vaka is a great herb for that, for giving you clarity of thought. So you put all those together and put it in green fairy hemp oil, and that gives you relax.
That's terrific. So one of the things that strikes me is it'd be useful if you talked a little bit about the hemp oil, because I believe you're pretty knowledgeable about the cannabinoids in the hemp plant and how they work, and how they actually help the other Ayurvedic herbs do their job. So in other words, the hemp oil is working with those other herbs that you've mentioned that are the Ayurvedic. So can you explain that, the cannabinoids, how do they work?
Yep, that's a good question. You obviously have a depth of knowledge, or you wouldn't even ask that question. So if you were a collector of cars, Nick, and you bought a Ferrari, a high performance Ferrari, you couldn't just put any kind of oil in that engine. It would take a specific grade and a specific type of oil. And the oil could be man-made, it could be natural, but it would take a specific type of oil. And so it is with the human body. There is a oil that was created specifically for the human body, and it's hemp seed oil. The knowledge of that has been sort of suppressed somewhat over the years, but it's starting to flower at the moment, if you excuse the pun. It's starting to flower and blossom and come forth to the joy of people that are suffering pain and affliction.
Just for those listeners who aren't quite sure, hemp seed oil and all hemp seed products are entirely legal. Let's be clear about that. So there is no question about that in New Zealand. In fact, most countries in the world. But you haven't really explained the way that the
endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, how does that work? Is that like the routing system like we've got for our computers you mentioned earlier?
Well, it's like the network. So say your brain would be a computer and your central nervous system would be a computer. You need good connections between those and between the organs and the muscles to get good responses and to get what's called homeostasis. The homeostasis is a situation where your entire body is in balance. There's not too much of any particular hormone, that everything is working within a particular range, and that's an optimum living level for people. Now, stress and the wrong food and not enough sleep and thinking the wrong thoughts is going to upset your homeostatic balance. And the way to get back to homeostasis is by stimulating and getting working the endocannabinoid system, which is essentially your communication systems in your body that holds all of the physiological systems together. And so like your physiology, let's just say your heart rate and your body temperature. If I was to go outside right now and I got rained on and I was cold, it would change my physiology. And it would either raise my temperature or lower it, or it would do something with my heart rate. And the endocannabinoid system allows these particular physiological systems to communicate with each other and be in balance. And to me, that's like the, you don't have a network for your computer to communicate with your neighbor's computer until you put in a router and some wiring and some hubs and maybe a switch or whatever. So the endocannabinoid system, when we're depleted in nutrition, will not be working properly because these particular things are missing, the hubs, the switches, the routers. And when you take full spectrum hemp oil, which is what we have in Green Fairy, the switches and the network cables that are missing are able to restore themselves. And then suddenly you've got a body that's actually improving because of the communication systems have improved.
Yeah, and I believe the science of this is it's really sort of blossomed over the last 20 years or so. And many of you listeners who have looked into hemp seed and the hemp plant would have come across CBD, which is probably the most popular of the cannabinoids that can be supplied in oils as well. CBD is massively popular, particularly in the US. But I think the point that's interesting that you've raised is that this is like the communication, the messaging. So if you go out, as you said, and it's boiling hot, the messaging in your body has to say, okay, sweat. It has to send messages saying, hey, we're going way out of comfort here. So the body is told to sweat. The sweat glands, the skin, in order to try and protect the homeostasis, which is now threatened. And it's the same way if you went out in minus 30 degrees with just in your street clothes. So these messaging systems actually, funnily enough, as I understand it, are partly created and manufactured inside the body. So we talk about cannabinoids in the hemp plant, but in actual fact, the body generates its own cannabinoids. And as you correctly said, when you run your body down, then you run down your cannabinoids that you need inside your body to do all this messaging. So there's kind of a very interesting sort of role that the hemp seed oil can play.
Well, nutritionally speaking, what happens is that you have cannabinoids in your system, but they get flushed out and they get used. So yeah, you need to restore them every day. It's kind of like omega-3s and 6s. You can't produce them yourself, so you got to get them from somewhere. And when you get them, that's not enough for one day. You got to get them the next day as well.
So just to summarize, Marco, you've got this company, Homeostasis, you've got these products online, and you actually sample and try and have over a number of years all of these yourself. So you actually are the primary sort of consumer test, and you continue to sort of finesse the formulations based on your own experience, which I think is a fantastic sort of advert for your business. But where are we hoping to take it further? What's your ambition for Homeostasis?
Well, what I'd like to see, Nick, is that specifically, I'd like to see less stress and that people have to go through.
So in other words, you're looking for, I guess, more and more people to be helped, particularly with this very modern ailment across, I guess, all of New Zealand, which is stress and anxiety.
Yeah, so I believe that if I'm not now, at least previously, I used to be the king of anxiety, and having gone there and lived there and didn't like it, I don't think other people should have to live there either, that there are actually ways to get out of that. And it does take a bit of work, depending on how long you've lived like that and how much sleep that you've gone without. But I really felt like it was my life's mission to be able to give access to cannabinoids in the hemp plant, and also Ayurvedic herbs or any kind of herbs that are going to be effective.
Marco, it's been fantastic talking to you, and I'm sure everybody listening wish you absolutely well, and be very keen to sample some of your products. So thank you very much.
Cheers, Nick.